What is going on, everybody? Shwazy here, and in today's video we are with the all-new 2022 Mitsubishi Outlander. And in today's video I'm going to be discussing 6 things that I love and, well, 3 things that I kind of hate about this all-new Mitsubishi Outlander. Okay, first off, in no particular order, one of the first things I love about this vehicle is the exterior and interior styling. Starting off with the front end, I really like the daytime running lights located up here above the headlights, which are actually down here, and the LED running lights look really good, especially in the evening when this thing is driving down the road. I really like how this is a progression of the outgoing Outlander, but it also looks a little bit different than every other vehicle on the road. Now, if this front end is a little too controversial for you with that chrome piece that kind of juts in and out, well, coming over to the side, it's a little bit more subdued, a little bit more normal looking, kind of a little bit more premium looking, with the fact that you have this body line stretching to the back, you have this lower body line as well, and you are riding on 20-inch wheels with a brushed aluminum and a gloss black finish. Now, I do like how the black trim actually wraps around the front 2 windows, giving it a sportier appearance, and you do have a silver roof rack on this SEL touring trim. I do like how they designed this back quarter panel as well, with the chrome piece kind of jetting up into the black plastic, connecting the front end with the back, and coming over to the rear end, it also looks really premium and nice. Again, you have some sculpted body lines, giving it kind of a German appearance from the rear end. Overall, a really nice looking vehicle from the outside, but honestly, the thing I love even more than the outside is the inside of the vehicle. So let's take a look, because that really is the creme de la creme of this particular trim level and vehicle. Okay, stepping inside, this is where this vehicle really punches above its weight. I mean, look at that. You have quilted leather stitching on the interior, and I really like the contrast with the black leather and the saddle brown. Looks really nice and premium. I mean, take a look at these seats. You've got perforated leather seats with orange, or I guess I could say brown stitching outlining everything up to even the headrest. And let's take a look at this armrest as well. Again, you have that saddle brown color, and then stepping up to the dashboard, you have the same nice use of materials and color throughout the entire front row. And this is all soft touch material. This is actually leather, and kind of a squishy leather, if you can tell. Same with this is soft touch material. Even this up here, which is typically hard touch plastic, this is actually a rubberized injection molded plastic that's actually soft to the touch. The only place here that has hard touch plastic is this little section right over here. Everywhere else is either leather or some sort of soft touch material, and this is a leather wrapped steering wheel as well. So a beautiful interior cabin, and let me show you what the second row looks like, because it's arguably even better than the first row, because you wouldn't expect a second row to be as nice as the first row, but it is just as nice. Again, you have that same contrast stitching going all the way down on all of these surfaces. I love this angle right here, because you see the door panel kind of coming together with the seat cushion. It looks really nice, and overall a beautiful design to the interior and exterior, and one of the favorite features of this Mitsubishi Outlander. Now, the next thing I love about this vehicle has to do with the fact that this is one of the few compact crossovers on the market that has an all digital display. Yes, this is a 12.3-inch fully digital display, and the graphics are magnificent. They really did a good job in designing this display. You've got lots of different features here. You can even change the view to make it a little bit more modern or progressive. Looks really nice. And you have a little Mitsubishi Outlander over there in the center. And if you turn on your adaptive cruise control, you'll actually see a Mitsubishi Lancer ahead of you. Now, it doesn't just stop there, because this vehicle also comes with a head-up display, which is, again, not very common amongst compact crossovers. And it does have lots of different features. So you do have the adaptive adaptive cruise control there. You have your current speed, and then you can change the radio stations, and it's hard to tell on camera, but it'll actually tell you what stations you're going to. Really useful, nice to have. It's a 10.8-inch display. So combined with the 12.3 inches over here, that's got to be one of my favorite features of this vehicle, and definitely differentiates itself from the competitors. While we're up here, the next thing I love about this vehicle has to do with its safety tech. Now, this particular trim comes with the My Pilot Assist, and so by pushing this button, which you may recognize, this looks kind of like a Nissan because, well, this shares a lot of components with the Nissan Rogue, but by pushing this button, you turn on your adaptive cruise control, among other features as well. So this vehicle actually has a lane centering assist system where if you're driving down a middle of a lane, whether that's in the city or preferably on the highway because it's a little less interrupted, this vehicle will actually center the vehicle in the lane, and it will keep a distance with the vehicle in front of you, and it can actually come to a complete stop, and then you can re-accelerate up to the speed limit or up to the speed of the vehicle in front of you. The other nice feature about this vehicle is it will actually track the speed limit in whatever section you're in, but it's worked really well for me where once the speed limit changes and you're driving at highway speeds, the vehicle will actually show you on the heads-up display and reduce the speed to whatever speed limit you're going at. So if you ever get pulled over in one of these things, you could say, hey, my Mitsubishi Outlander told me that the speed limit was 45 miles an hour. That's why it increased or decreased the speed. And we'll see if that actually works in getting you out of a ticket. But nonetheless, a really advanced system that I haven't seen on every other competitor. Now, it's becoming a little bit more common. It's not any form of level 2 autonomous driving or anything like that, but it works pretty well in the uses I've done it. And it's actually followed the lanes even through curves and done a pretty good job at it, better than some of the competition. And in either case, it's really nice to have this type of functionality on a vehicle that's under $40,000. Now, again, going off of the price point, the next thing I love about this vehicle is the fact that this comes with a 360-degree camera, and it's a very robust and really good-looking camera system that you can actually cycle through different angles and take a look at different positions. Really snappy as well. As soon as you push that button, this 360-degree camera comes right up. As a matter of fact, all of the menus are like that. You hit map, it comes up, audio comes up pretty quick, but the camera is specifically what I'm focusing on because it does have trajectory lines, it has different positions, and on a vehicle at this price point, it's not always common to find. As a matter of fact, the Honda CR-V does not come with a 360-degree camera as an option on the current outgoing generation. So keep that in mind. If you do want a 360-degree camera, which if you've ever lived with one, you almost can't live without one at that point, then the Mitsubishi Outlander should be on your shopping list. You also have parking sensors all around the vehicle. So as you're pulling into a spot, it will actually show you that you're, well, about to hit something as you're approaching it. So as you can see there, the parking sensors are going off. Now, the next thing I really love about this vehicle is the fact that this is the only compact crossover I can think of that comes with a third row of seats. Yes, this has seating up to 7 individuals. Now, it's not extremely comfortable. As you can see, the legroom is pretty tight. You're not really going to fit any adults in here, and even children may have a hard time, but regardless, if you need it, if you are an emergency or you have small kids that maybe you want to drive around town, not very long distances, this is really the only vehicle where you can keep the compact shape of the exterior but still have 3 rows of seats. The other thing about this is there's really no compromise. So if you take a look from the back, and don't mind the junk I have back here because this is all my camera gear, but as you can see, there's not much space behind the third row, but it's really super simple to fold these down and really just have a large flat loading floor typical to every other crossover, and you can actually hide this headrest underneath the floor right over here as well, along with the tonneau cover if your vehicle comes with that option, because the tonneau cover actually hooks in right over here. And obviously, if you have the third row up, you're not going to be able to sit there, so you can hide both those things underneath the floor. You could see the tonneau cover actually sticking out over here, and hide it at a plain sight. Really, the only compromise is you have a little bit of limited underfloor storage in the trunk, but other than that, I think that's a really good compromise for the fact that you have a third row of seats that are really easy to put up and be able to be used in a pinch if necessary. Now for the next feature, I have to show it off at night because, as I'm sure you can guess, it has to do with lighting. And even though the rear tail lights are nice, that's not exactly what I wanted to point out. We're actually gonna have to come to the front and I'll show you what I'm talking about. It's not the front running lights either. It's actually this really cool outline around the grille, which it's pretty unique. I don't know, it takes those little things to get me impressed, but this is really cool because this is a feature that you would maybe do aftermarket, but this vehicle comes with that from the factory and it looks really nice. But not just that, I want to show off some of the other lighting, like this Mitsubishi logo on the ground. Again, something you could do in aftermarket, but it comes from the factory. And I do really like this little ambient lighting on the inside. Even though I would have loved to have a little bit more ambient lighting, I think the fact that this compact crossover, entry-level crossover, mind you, has ambient lighting is impressive. And that's the next thing I really love about the Mitsubishi Outlander. Okay, now for the part of the video where I talk about the 3 things I kind of hate about this Mitsubishi Outlander. Now, every single time I do a hate video, which hate is a really strong word. There's nothing I really hate about any new car because most new cars, if not all new cars, are pretty decent. But every time I make one of these hate videos, everybody just freaks out and says, "Oh, you don't know anything. You don't understand this car." I always get a kick out of it because people don't really understand that I'm talking about things that could be improved. It's really just constructive criticism, but I'm using the word hate because, well, that's what gets attention. Now, none of the items I really talk about are things that should dissuade you from buying this vehicle, especially the first 2, because the first 2 are just kind of nitpicking and just coming from a car reviewer standpoint. But if you're buying this vehicle, these are just things you may want to consider or think about when you go for a test drive and see if it's something you can live with. So I think the list of hate is actually more important than the things I love because it provides some really good context and information for a potential future buyer. Now I'll get off my soapbox and let's talk about the first thing I kind of hate about the Outlander. Now, like I said, I would be nitpicking, but the first thing I kind of have to knock Mitsubishi on is the fact that this is a hard touch plastic. Now, if this was just any other vehicle where everything else up here was hard touch plastic, it'd almost be more forgivable. But the fact is, this interior is so incredibly nice. Everywhere you touch, like I showed earlier, this is soft touch, this is soft touch. Even the fact that you have this little center arm console over here where you're gonna rest your knee, this is soft touch material, but this little section over here, which granted you're never going to touch, is a hard touch material. And I will commend Mitsubishi for carrying over this type of soft touch to the rear seats as well, which is not always common, but I wish they would just have made it a little bit more of a rubberized material, similar to what you have here, just carried over, maybe even just down to this section right there. You don't need to have that much. It probably wouldn't cost that much more, but on a really nice interior like this kind of just cheapens it just a little bit and makes it a little less luxurious. Now, that is normal for compact crossovers. Most compact crossovers have this hard touch plastic here, but given the interior is so nice, I wish this would have been a little bit more improved. Now, the second thing, again, I'm being a little nitpicky on, is the fact that this software, even though it's quick to pull up some of these quick access functions, is a little bit on the slower or laggier side. So as you can see, as I'm swiping, it's not super slow, but it's not as snappy and quick as some other softwares I've tested, especially from the likes of Chevy. I think this could be improved a little bit. Now, this is the same software essentially as the one I reviewed in my Infiniti QX60 review. But the difference is here it is a little bit slower than the QX60. I think it probably has a slightly downgraded processor or graphics unit, and that's why it's just a little bit laggy. And with the software, I also want to mention navigation because it's really not that great. It's kind of hard to navigate to places. We tried navigating to a store earlier today and it brought up 2 of the 3 locations, but it didn't even show the 3rd location that we were going to. And even the map, like zoom in, zoom out feature, is a little bit on the laggier or slower side. And earlier today, I tried to zoom in to see what roads are around me and it didn't really help, especially as I'm driving. It's kind of hard to use this system. Now, the one caveat to that is the fact that this vehicle comes with wireless Apple CarPlay and wired Android Auto, and so you really don't need to use this software if you plan on hooking up your phone, which is what I would recommend because this software just probably isn't up to par to some of the other competitors. It's just a little bit on the slower end. Okay, now for my third and final complaint about this vehicle, and I apologize for kind of the crappy lighting. The sun is right above us, and there's not really a place I can find that I can get a little bit of shade and still provide some good footage. So nonetheless, the third thing I kind of dislike about this vehicle really has to do with the powertrain, and more specifically the CVT transmission. And let me show you what I mean. So I'm kind of on a downhill right now. It's slightly declined, but let me stomp on the pedal and show you what it feels like. I just hit 30 miles an hour, and that was pedal to the floor. It's just not a great transmission. And I talked about this, in case you're interested, in my full car review of this vehicle, and I'll link that up on the screen and down in the description below. But I didn't mention that in that video. But now that I've driven this car more since I did that review, I really have noticed that that's something I really dislike about this vehicle. And it's probably my one true, not super nitpicky complaint about this vehicle, because the other stuff is really stuff that kind of is standard amongst a lot of competition. And even though a CVT is common amongst the competitors, I think some of them either do a better job or offer a standard torque converter automatic transmission, and that's not an option on this Outlander. Now, it's not a bad engine overall. I think the engine itself, the 2.5 liter, is probably more than sufficient for a vehicle of this size. But what's really hampering the acceleration here is that CVT transmission. And that's something I would really hope that they would improve over time. Now, I've never driven the previous generation Outlander, but I believe they came with a V6 engine as an option, and I wish they had that offered on this Outlander, because I think the only way to improve the performance here is to either get rid of the CVT or offer more horsepower. And right now, there's not really an option for either one. The only thing I'm curious to see is potentially a plug-in hybrid version of this Outlander, because Mitsubishi does offer a plug-in hybrid right now, but it's the previous generation Outlander. It's not this current one. So if you're wanting to get this current version, you're gonna have to stick with this 2.5 liter. And if you want the plug-in hybrid, which has almost 74 combined MPGE, you're gonna have to go for the previous generation. And maybe you won't like the looks as much as this one. Let me do another quick pull here on a freeway on-ramp. And I'm at the speed limit. Now, it does have simulated gears. I believe there's 8 simulated gears, but it doesn't really do a good job at distributing the torque appropriately. So that is one thing I wish they did improve on this vehicle. And it's gonna be something you have to consider and test drive before you commit to purchasing this vehicle. Because like I said, a lot of competitors do CVTs, so this is kind of a more common trend in the industry, but some CVTs are better than others. So you may have to test drive and see if some of the other amenities and benefits and strengths of this vehicle outweigh some of the cons, or the one real con, which is the CVT transmission. Well, I do hope you guys enjoyed today's video. This was just kind of a high-level overview of the strengths and some of the weaknesses, or one real weakness of the Mitsubishi Outlander. Overall, it really is an impressive vehicle, and I think it's very underrated. Nobody really talks about this as a competitor to the other compact crossovers like the Toyota RAV4, Honda CR-V, but you'd honestly be mistaken if you didn't consider this vehicle as your next compact crossover, because it does a lot of things really well, from its beautiful interior and exterior styling to its really advanced cruise control and self-driving technology, to the fact that it has 3 rows and up to 7 seats, which none of the other competitors really have to offer. Yes, the powertrain could be a little bit better, but if you're just commuting in day-to-day traffic, once you're on the freeway, you don't have to worry about accelerating or decelerating, and it does a really good job. But I would really appreciate you hitting that like button on this video and subscribing to the channel for all of the weekly videos. And as always, everybody, I hope you stay schwazy, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. I'm gonna sit back and let my Mitsubishi Outlander drive me home.